All right, so hi everyone. My name is Caroline, and I'm the Sustainability Specialist for the Office of Sustainability and Campus Enrichment. Thank you so much for joining us for our final Campus Earth Month talk and for joining us in the Earth Month celebration. We have two amazing interns here today who are going to share what they've researched for the past month. We'll be hearing from Ciara and Adele on biomimicry, nature as our mentor. In this TED Cell talk, we explore the science behind biomimicry, highlighting case studies of sustainable innovations inspired by natural systems and their role in advancing the circular economy. By shifting our perspective from learning about nature to learning from nature, this discussion reveals how natural models can provide a powerful blueprint for healing and sustaining our planet. A few space setting things on our Zoom today. So I will be recording because we post this to our YouTube afterwards so people can view it if you want to re-reference it, or if you had a friend who couldn't make it and wants to tune in, you can direct them to our YouTube channel. With that being said, if it makes you more comfortable to have your camera off, no worries about that. We have a live transcript going, so you can turn on the captions in your Zoom toolbar. And we'll have a Q&A at the end, so feel free to ask questions in the chat and we'll save them till then, or you can save your questions till the very end and we'll answer them then. Part of Campus Earth Month is our giveaway. So we will have code words being said throughout the presentation, whether in the chat, said by a speaker, or on a slide. And each of these code words is one entry into our random draw giveaway. There are so many different ways to earn entries, whether it's in this talk, our other talks, or in the plethora of other ways on our website. So be sure to look at the link at the very bottom of the slide and see all the different ways that you can enter, all the prize details and rules. You'll send all of your code words to sustainability@tamu.edu by April 22nd at midnight. These are the prizes that we'll be giving out this year. We like to pick things that encourage people to get outside or incorporate more sustainable practices into their life. The 250 tuition scholarship is very popular, but personally, I would choose the solar string lights. I just think that those are so cool and will really elevate all your like outdoor activities. Next week is our biggest sustainability event of the year, April 15th on Wednesday from 10 to 1 on Rudder Plaza. So come join us in celebrating Earth Day. We'll have so many different community partners, student organizations, our interns, and they'll be sharing about their sustainability initiatives and some different sustainability topics. Reveille will be there, so be sure to come get your picture with her, and Aguila Mariachi will be performing. This will be a really fun event to earn some code words for our giveaway, learn more about sustainability, and go home with some fun swag. If you missed it, we had two other talks this week from our interns. The first was on Monday by Elliot and Sarah. It's called Is Clean Energy Actually Clean? And you can watch the recap on our YouTube channel or at the link on this slide. We're often told that the future is clean energy, but what actually goes into powering that future? This talk dives into the world of energy transition minerals, exploring the complex trade-offs between global sustainability goals and the environmental and social realities of the mining required to meet them. From policy shifts to community impacts, we question whether a truly clean energy future is possible and what it takes to get there. Our second one was Caring for What Can't Speak for Itself, Rights for Animals and Plants for Future Generations, presented by Sawyer, Payton, and Isha. This talk examines humanity's role in environmental stewardship and the moral consideration owed to plants, animals, and future generations, beings unable to communicate their needs and interests. Grounded in the belief that plants and animals have intrinsic value and that future generations deserve to experience the planet's beauty, this discussion challenges anthropocentric development and argues for more inclusive, ethical decision making to protect the world we leave behind. So definitely tune into those. You still have the opportunity to earn code words for our giveaway by watching on YouTube. If you're interested in doing really cool things like this, presenting about a niche of sustainability that you find interesting, as well as many other outreach initiatives that we have for this internship, definitely consider applying. We have 8 internships available for the fall semester. It's on campus. All majors are welcome. We like to have a bunch of different skill set, mindsets, and backgrounds with the internship because sustainability is not just for sustainability specific professionals, it's for everyone. It goes into every aspect of life. It's open to undergraduate students only, and you need to apply by April 19th at midnight. So if you're interested in this, be sure to scan that QR code, reach out to me or the interns if you have any questions. All of the position description and job responsibilities, as well as how to apply, are on that QR code there. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adele and Ciara.
Howdy, thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about biomimicry and using nature as our mentor. My name is Adele.
My name is Ciara, and we are interns with the Office of Sustainability. I'd like to open this presentation with a quote. But in native ways of knowing, human people are often referred to as the younger brothers of creation. We say that humans have the least experience with how to live and thus the most to learn. We must look to our teachers among the other species for guidance. Those are the words of Robin Wall Kimmerer, author of Braiding Sweetgrass. And I want you to sit with that for a second. We are the youngest learners on this planet, not the masters, not the experts, or the students. Yet somehow we've built a world where we act like we're in charge of everything. We design cities, systems, industries, often without even asking the most important question. What has nature already figured out? Because the truth is, nature has been running experiments for 3.8 billion years. Every organism you see today is the result of solutions that worked. So maybe, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we should start paying attention.
Humanity currently requires on average 1.75 Earths to maintain our resource demands. That means we're overspending, not with money, but with ecosystems, biodiversity, and time. And the reason is that we've built our world on a linear model, take, make, dispose, which means we extract resources, we turn them into products, and then we throw them away. But nature doesn't do that, so why don't we? Instead of working with nature, we spent centuries trying to outsmart it.
What if the solutions to our greatest challenges are already living right outside our window?
This brings us to biomimicry, which combines bio, life, and mimicry imitation. It refers to the practice of studying how nature functions and applying those systems to human design. This idea has been around since people have coexisted with the earth.
In nature, materials are continuously reused and processes are efficient without producing waste. Biomimicry applies the same logic to human systems, encouraging designs that are sustainable by structure.
When researching a solution with biomimicry, we can break our subject of focus into 3 different levels. The first is the organism level, which focuses on a specific plant or animal and how it functions. The second is the behavior level, which looks at how that organism interacts with its environment and adapts to changing conditions. And the third is the ecosystem level, which examines how multiple organisms and elements work together as a system.
Each of these categories can be broken down into further subcategories that explore their form, material, construction, process, and function. Each level provides a different type of insight, and together they allow designers to move forward from isolated solutions to more integrated systems.
At a basic level, designers may replicate the shape or appearance of something in nature. This is often referred to as form-based biomimicry. A more advanced approach focuses on process, meaning how something is made or how it functions. Taking this idea even further, the most comprehensive level involves ecosystems, where entire systems and relationships are modeled after nature.
As the level of understanding increases, the resulting designs tend to be more sustainable and more adaptable. In other words, it's the difference between copying one small idea from nature and learning how nature makes entire systems work. Now we'll study some examples of biomimicry. A well-known example of biomimicry is the Japanese Shinkansen train. Engineers were trying to solve the issue of the loud pressure waves created when the train exited tunnels. One of the lead engineers Eiji Nakatsu, an avid birdwatcher, noticed that the kingfisher dives into water with minimal splash due to the shape of its beak. By redesigning the front of the train to reflect the beak shape, they were able to reduce noise, increase speed, and improve energy efficiency. From this, we can learn to take time to appreciate our Earth and species, who will guide us to solutions.
A second example is wind turbines being modeled after humpback whales. Their fins contain small bumps along the edge, and these bumps change how water flows over the surface of the fin, helping reduce drag and increase lift. As a result, whales are able to move through water with a level of agility and control that would otherwise seem unlikely for their size. When engineers studied this structure, they began to apply the same concept to wind turbine blades. Instead of keeping the blades completely smooth, they introduced similar ridges along the edges. This adjustment led to noticeable improvements. The turbines were able to generate more energy, operate more quietly, and also perform more efficiently, especially in low wind conditions.
A third example comes from the thorny devil, a desert lizard found in Australia. This animal lives in extremely dry environments where water is scarce and unpredictable. Instead of actively searching for water, it relies on a passive system built into its own body. Its skin is covered in microscopic channels that use capillary action to transport water. When moisture, such as dew or rain, touches its skin, it is automatically drawn along these channels towards the lizard's mouth. This process requires no energy and no movement. It is entirely driven by the structure of the skin. The same principle is now being studied in human design. Researchers are exploring how surface conditions could be used for passive water collection systems in buildings, especially in arid regions where access to water is limited. It is also being applied to evaporative cooling systems, where water can be distributed efficiently without pumps or external energy.
What's important about this example is not just the outcome, but also the level of understanding behind it.
But we have to be careful. If we just copy and paste nature without understanding the context, we fail. A commonly cited example highlights what can happen when ecological context is overlooked. The case of the cane toads from Australia is an example of the ecosystem level of biomimicry because it relates multiple organisms and species in the area.
In the 1930s, Australia's sugarcane industry was being devastated by the native gray-backed cane beetle. After seeing reports that cane toads had successfully controlled similar beetles in Hawaii and Puerto Rico, the Bureau of Sugar Experiment Stations imported 102 toads to Queensland in June 1935. The Bureau had hoped that the toads would reduce the population of beetles that were eating the sugar cane. However, the beetles lived at the top of the cane stalks while the toads lived on the ground. So the two hardly interacted, and the beetles continued to destroy the sugar cane farms. Instead of eating the beetles, the toads found other prey, which disrupted local ecosystems.
From this, it's important to understand that solutions in nature cannot be universally applied. The entire ecosystem should be carefully studied before introducing a foreign concept. A truly circular future requires more than just engineers. It needs sociologists, psychologists, and voices from local communities.
These examples bring us to the topic of Sustainable Development Goals. These goals address challenges such as climate change, resource management, and sustainable infrastructure. One important characteristic of these goals is their holistic consideration, because most of the time, progress in one area often supports progress in others.
Natural systems operate in a similar way. Energy, materials, and relationships are interconnected, and changes in one part of the system affect the whole. By applying this system-based thinking, biomimicry supports solutions that are more comprehensive and long-lasting.
While there are 17 SDGs, they can be sorted into themes. The first thematic cluster is focused on health, partnership, and life on land, which relate to SDGs 3, 17, and 15. The second thematic cluster revolves around clean water, energy, infrastructure, and marine life, which relates SDGs 6, 7, 9, and 14.
Biomimicry falls within these two thematic clusters. An analysis reveals that biomimicry can be applied to enhancing sustainable communities. As we develop new technologies and innovation, research on sustainability effort evolves, and with it, biomimetic ideas.
Even though biomimicry has a lot of potential, it's not always easy to apply in practice. Because these ideas are relatively new, they start in research labs as small prototypes and they're slower to show immediate results. It creates challenges, such as translating them into large-scale products, navigating regulatory requirements, and also securing funding and investment.
On top of this, developing biomimetic solutions oftentimes requires collaboration between scientists, engineers, designers, and policymakers, which can slow adoption, but it also highlights the importance of interdisciplinary approaches in addressing environmental challenges.
Another challenge preventing us from moving forward is the barrier we have placed between Western academia and indigenous knowledge. Decoloniality is a framework that is starting to be incorporated into academia. It essentially involves dismantling the colonial legacies weaved into research practices, such as the extractive nature of it, the marginalization of non-Western practices, and an established researcher-researched relationship.
This practice reframes research as a collaborative effort that emphasizes dialogue exchange, reciprocal relationships, and honor to Indigenous philosophy. We must uplift and validate Indigenous knowledge systems, including their methods, theories, and research, and create more inclusive academic discourse. The art of storytelling helps reframe the way we perceive aspects of an environment. An example of this is how, in one particular Indigenous story, microbes are depicted as water spirits. Instead of viewing microbes as something to dislike and avoid, it creates an affinity to it and thus challenges our perspectives. This strong connection to language enables nuances and complexities in understanding. By practicing humility and realizing we are not above nature, scientists have learned to listen and learn from what they have studied.
By treating Indigenous communities as research partners rather than research subjects, we can uncover deeper levels of understanding about how our natural environment works, and it'll help ensure that we don't overstep boundaries while gathering data.
To recapitulate, biomimicry is a translation of nature systems into human systems. Biomimicry can be improved by implementing reconnection with the natural environment and considering ourselves a part of it. We can learn from Indigenous communities' culture of connection with the earth, such as storytelling, music, and dance.
Moving forward, we must also include as many communities as possible in conversations about the environment and biomimicry. From this, we can detach from the idea of universal knowledge and better understand how each local ecosystem works. I encourage you to slow down and appreciate our ecosystem. Pay attention to the plants, animals, and structures that were here before us. We might just learn more about ourselves the more we learn about them.
Our code word for this presentation is reciprocity.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask us or type them in the chat.
Amazing. Thank y'all so much. All of those examples of biomimicry were just so fascinating. It's so cool to see what we can learn from the earth and how to better live with it instead of against it. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat or you're welcome to unmute yourself. First question, what is your favorite example of biomimicry?
I'll answer this question first. We didn't include it in the slides, but when we learned about biomimicry in our sustainability internship class, we talked about how corals are being broken down and used to like duplicate and build up their ecosystem again. So corals naturally grow together their limbs when they're broken off. So scientists discovered by breaking them into smaller fragments that they can grow back, and that's how we can build up the coral ecosystem again. And I just think it's really sweet how we learn from nature and just are trying to accommodate them and help them do what they do best.
For me, I think I really liked the Thorny Devil example. Um, I think it was really cool how it connected to the Sustainable Development Goals of clean water and accessible water resources. Um, and yeah, I thought it was really interesting to learn how the the species work and how we can transfer what we learned from that to actual systems that can help us create more sustainable systems and infrastructures.
Awesome. Next question. What surprised you most in your research?
What surprised me most is the wide range of industries that biomimicry has been applied in. You saw in the presentation that it was applied to the transportation industry and vehicle design, but when I was doing research, I found other examples such as replicating shark skin for swimsuits. So athletes use that in the Olympics one year, and even Velcro, which is a really common example. So it's all around us. We're learning so much from nature and we're applying it to every aspect in our life. And I just love how there's so much to incorporate.
What surprised me is also similar to what Ciara just said. I think mostly it's like how many real world examples there are that already exist. And I just didn't expect biomimicry to be something that's actually being implemented across so many industries. And beyond that, there's also a lot of new innovations that are people are working on, and like from water purification to even just building materials from scratch that could really improve entire systems. But also, I think learning about this felt really refreshing because it gave me hope that there are ways to use resources more responsibly, without damaging the earth. And yes.
I agree with the hope part. Uh, we definitely wanted to focus on something more positive this month because there's a lot of drawbacks with climate change. But I think it's also important to highlight all the progress that we're making and how we can move forward with sustainability.
I love that sentiment. I had a question for y'all. So, what would y'all say to people who don't necessarily believe in the idea of sustainability and usually put like economics and profit over sustainability to convince them that biomimicry is something that is worthwhile?
I think I would encourage them to think about their favorite spots in nature and think about how, in the long run, um, this can actually be a lot more beneficial. And we didn't look into the economic side very much, but I'm sure if the systems are sustaining themselves, that it'll end up being lower cost. So I think it's just important to understand our connection with that. And then we can figure out how everything else connects holistically, like with the sustainable development goals.
Yes, I agree with Ciara, even though biomimicry might not be like the one solutions to combat climate change issues. It's definitely part of the solution and step forward to more sustainable practices. And I think the way that it needs to be to work alongside policy, behavior science, and all of that is really important to think about it as like a holistic thing where each systems work together to make something. And yeah, I think just considering long-term impacts is important to see how this might be really helpful for us.
Love that. Okay, next question. How can we implement biomimicry into our personal lives?
I think just observing nature the most you can and learning how um, systems work around it might be helpful because you never know, you get some really cool idea and you might implement it somehow or talk about it with other people, and then something um, interesting comes out of that, and something that could actually be implemented.
I also think it's important to learn from people who have been using biomimicry for a really long time, like Indigenous communities. We wanted to highlight that in our presentation because a lot of people don't talk about it when they bring up examples of biomimicry. They like to cite Da Vinci as one of the first people to have used it, but people have been using it as long as we've coexisted with nature. And Indigenous communities have sustained themselves so well, and they appreciate the environment with storytelling, dance, and just the way they view the environment. So I think slowing down, appreciating the environment, reframing how we perceive it will go a long way because then instead of feeling like we are taking from nature and just existing on the same planet, it'll feel like we're actually living with them and that we can support each other.
That's beautiful. Okay, final question. Y'all mentioned recommending reconnecting with their favorite place in nature. What is y'all's favorite place?
My favorite place is South Padre Island, Texas. I like to watch the sunrise there. I've done it multiple times. I feel so at peace. The nature is so calming, and it's just one of the places where I truly feel appreciative to the earth. And I think it makes me want to be good to the earth.
I think my favorite place would be somewhere in the mountains. I've only really been in the one in Italy, and during the summer it feels really special. And like Sarah said, it's such a peaceful moment, and it's not just about the environment, but also like the whole ecosystems, like the animals and the flowers, everything. Um, it feels very like, I don't know. I feel very at home when I'm there.
That was a very sweet question. I love that. Well, thank you all so much for presenting. If no one has any more questions, we'll go ahead and hop off. But thank you all so much for joining, and we hope to see y'all at future Campus Earth Month events.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.